You know, we've all played around with chatbots, right? But what if you had an AI that didn't just sit there waiting for you to ask it something? Imagine an AI that actually works for you, around the clock, like a real personal assistant. Well, that's the whole idea behind a new wave of AI agents. And today, we're diving into a project called OpenClaw that makes this a reality.
And hey, this isn't some far-off sci-fi concept. This is a real quote from someone using this right now. Think about that. An AI that's proactive, it sees what's on your schedule and gets you ready for it without you having to lift a finger. This is what it really means to move beyond just a simple chat window.
So the biggest issue with most AI tools is something we've kind of just gotten used to. Even super powerful platforms like ChatGPT are, well, passive. You have to start the chat, you have to give it all the context, and the second you close that browser tab, poof, it forgets everything. It's a tool you use, not an assistant that acts. And that's where OpenClaw completely flips the script. It's built from the ground up to be an AI that works for you, running constantly in the background. It can keep an eye on your apps, run tasks on a schedule, and get this, it can even message you first when it discovers something important. That's the huge shift right there, from a passive tool to a proactive assistant. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how this all works. We'll start by looking at what makes this different from a chatbot. Then we'll talk about where your AI agent actually lives. We'll get into the fun stuff, unlocking its superpowers, and see how it can automate your life. And finally, we'll cover the really important topics of safety and, not breaking the bank.
All right, first things first, let's talk about the big idea. What's the massive paradigm shift here that makes this kind of AI so different from every chatbot you've ever typed a question into?
You can see the difference so clearly here. On one side, you've got your standard AI. You have to go to it, and it has the memory of a goldfish. It forgets everything after each chat. But on the other side, you have OpenClaw. It's always on. It builds a persistent memory. It actually learns about you and your preferences, and that's what allows it to act on your behalf.
This whole thing is really built on three core pillars. First, you've got the brain and memory. This is what connects to those big, powerful AI models and lets it learn over time. Second, it's always on. It's running 24/7, working away in the background. And third, and this is huge, it has tools and actions. This is how it actually plugs into your digital life, your Gmail, your calendar, to get real stuff done.
Okay, so if this thing is always on, that brings up a pretty good question. Where does it live? I mean, an AI assistant this powerful needs a home base, a place to run and do its work from. And that brings us to our next section.
Basically, you've got three main choices. You could run it on your own computer for free, but the moment you shut your laptop, it's offline. A spare computer works, sure, but that's a pretty big upfront cost. For most people, the real sweet spot is a cloud server, also known as a VPS. Just think of it like renting a tiny private computer in a secure data center. It's cheap, and it guarantees your assistant is always awake and ready to go.
Now, I know this setup might sound a little intimidating, but it really boils down to three simple concepts. First, you choose a home, like that cloud server we just talked about. Second, you get the keys to a brain. You do this by connecting it to an AI model with something called an API key. It's just a fancy password that lets your assistant use a powerful AI. And third, you set the alarm by putting some basic security rules in place, which we'll definitely talk more about in a bit.
Okay, now for the really fun part. Unlocking your agent's superpowers. See, having an AI brain is great, but it's not much use if it can't interact with the world. In OpenClaw, the way it does that is with skills. Honestly, the absolute best way to think about skills is that they're superpowers. Every single skill you add is like a new plugin that gives your AI a brand new ability, connecting it to another piece of your digital universe.
And this is where you can see just how powerful this can get. With the right skills, your assistant can basically run your entire Google Workspace for you, reading your email, putting meetings on your calendar, organizing files in Drive. It can surf the web for info, or it can ping you with updates on Slack or Telegram. It's a real game changer. But, and this is a big but, with great power comes great responsibility. You have to understand that not all of these community-made skills are safe. As this slide points out, researchers actually found hundreds of malicious skills out there. So the takeaway is pretty simple. Be careful. Only install skills from developers you trust, or if you're a coder, after you've actually looked at the code yourself. Okay, so your assistant has a home, it's got superpowers. How do we actually put it on autopilot so it can start automating parts of your life for real? The main way this is done is through something called a cron job. And hey, don't let the nerdy name scare you. The concept is super simple. A cron job is just a scheduled task. You're just telling your assistant, hey, I want you to do this specific thing for me automatically at this specific time.
And here is a perfect real-world example. You can set up a daily routine to give you a morning briefing, just like a real executive assistant would. And that's just scratching the surface. Imagine telling it to check for concert tickets for your favorite band every Friday, or to summarize any long email chain from your boss, or maybe to watch a product page online and tell you when the price drops. The whole point is to automate all those repetitive digital chores that eat up your time. Now, letting an autonomous AI run loose with access to your apps, well, that requires some really strong guardrails. So let's talk about how to handle the two biggest worries, safety and cost. Right, managing an agent like this means you got to think a little differently. The most important thing is to set clear rules right from the start. For example, make it ask you for permission before it ever sends an email or deletes a file. You should also set runtime limits so a task doesn't get stuck in some crazy loop forever. And seriously, start small. Let it play around in a test account before you hand over the keys to your most important digital kingdoms. The other huge factor is cost. As you can see from this chart, not all AI brains cost the same. A simple Tier 3 model is super cheap and fast, and it's perfect for basic routine stuff. But that powerful Tier 1 model, while it's amazing for really complex thinking, is going to get very expensive very fast if you use it for everything.
And this leads us to the #1 pro tip for keeping costs down. It's a strategy called smart routing. The idea is you use the powerful, expensive model for the heavy lifting, the thinking and planning part, but then you delegate the simple execution, the doing, to a much cheaper and faster model. It really is the best of both worlds. You get incredible results without getting a surprise bill at the end of the month.
So, the tech is finally here. A truly proactive, personal AI assistant that can learn, adapt, and work for you 24/7. This isn't just another chatbot waiting for you to type something. This is an agent ready for a job. So the only question left is, what are you going to have it do first?